98% of the things you're afraid of are not going to happen. They're just not. Because before they actually happen, you would make a different decision.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning! This is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening and or where you're listening from, but it's your boy, your host, Ron Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, I don't know if y'all know that we changed our intro and stuff like that. My oldest son, big shout out to him, Ethan Tillman. He go by some hip hop name. I can't remember his name. Shifty, Shift, whatever his name is. But I am glad that he's making me current. Having the sound like people like to listen. When you're building a business, though, there's two things. One, you have to shift. You have to shift to understand the dynamics of the culture that's around you. I often use Blockbuster as my launching pad. Blockbuster didn't shift. They had a chance of getting to bed with Netflix, and it was like, oh, who's going to watch TV from the phone? Who's going to, and when I was coming up, Blockbuster was the place. You go there on Friday nights, you get your tapes, you get your video games, you might even mess around and meet a couple of honeys. They kept the atmosphere conducive for the time, but what they didn't see is that there was a shift in time, and it was a new generation that would not consume in the same way that they was consuming. Two, you got to keep up with your mental hygiene, because once the market shift and you've already had a lion's share of a market, what happens is your ego starts to tell you that you know more than that, you don't stay relevant. And then once your enemies or your competitors start to catch up to you or pass you, and you're still stuck in the mud, it messes with your psyche. You lose good employees, you lose favor of people. They don't write your name no more. The local government is not giving you the grants that you used to give. Your phone calls don't mean anything anymore. And you realize that all that stuff was just a facade anyway. Like, because every time I call, when I call, they answer. No, because you had influence. And the influence messes around with the mind. Now, all I'm left with is a legacy that used to be illustrious and a mind that is not as sharp as it used to be. Well, what can you do? You have to stay relevant. Here, psychologically, emotionally. And you need people that can watch from the outside in to help you stay relevant without kissing your ass. The problem is we want ass kisses around us. And the higher you go, the more ass kisses we hire. As I bring in our guests, I told y'all this story a number of times. Do you know that they call, and the fellas in the room today, hey, fella, you know that they call Sylvester Stallone champ? Champ of what? He never, but he keep people around him that calls him champ because of the Rocky movie. It was a movie, but in his mind, he the champ. He did box, okay? He boxed, like the Golden Gloves, amateur box. And that's when he came up with the movie. He's the champion of a movie writing, but he's not a champion in boxing. He's never been a champ, but his entourage calls him champ because he wants them to call him champ. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I see your face. You looking at me like this guy's that. They call him champ, Jonathan. Come on, man.
I mean, I love the Rocky movies.
I do
They were
too.
great.
Man,
They were
the
great.
one of the movie.
No, no, I remember, I mean, I remember going to the movies and I guess the guy who played the the villain in the one that was the most successful just died recently. The boxer.
Oh, with
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
I once
So
entourage
anyway,
told him champ.
I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
So how you doing? Tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and we're going to dive right into our conversation.
Yeah, my name is Jonathan Breeden. I'm a divorce attorney in the suburbs of Raleigh, North Carolina. Been in business for myself for the last 25 years. I started this business, the Breeden Law Office, in October of 2000. Here in the suburbs, we do have 4 locations currently: one in Raleigh near downtown, and then 3 in the surrounding areas. My primary office is in Garner. The most famous person from Garner, North Carolina, is Scotty McCreery, the country music singer who won American Idol a few years ago. And anyway, and it's Smith Owen and Anger. And we just help families that for whatever reason their relationships are not working out. We try to help them continue to be and become the hero of their life story. And because that's what everybody wants to do. And hopefully create families and homes that are free of fear and intimidation and violence, where everybody can be safe and grow up to be the best they can be. So this is kind of what we do. It's been an interesting journey. As I mentioned to you before we got on, I had 3 employees in June of 2020, and they all quit for varying reasons during COVID. We currently have 23 or 24 employees. So it can be kind of a crazy, massive shift. And it started with my mindset becoming better. And I know I listen to your podcast and you've got a lot of great guests. I hope I can live up to some of the guests you've had. I felt a little intimidated when I was getting ready to get on here. I thought, man, those last few episodes have been really solid. But anyway, so yeah, so it's been a it's been an interesting journey. And I think, people, if they take nothing else out of what we say today in this conversation, you have to make a decision. And I don't care what it is. You have to make a decision to move forward and to try to be better every day. And I was on a call with earlier today with a mindset coach that I work with some, and he was like, pick a word of the year. What word are you going to try to bring into this word? What you bring about, what you speak about, you bring about, right? Like words have meaning, words have value. If you write them, you're bringing them into the world. Blaine Olkers says that. That's one of the mindset coaches I work with. He's out of Phoenix, Arizona. He has a TED talk. It's really fascinating. You look him up. But that's true. And that's kind of what he was saying. Like, and so I was trying to think, what word would be good for me this year? And with a lot of young attorneys and a lot of new staff, I think my word's going to be trading. And we're going to focus on training the staff we have to provide a better client service.
So for me, right, I've been married since in my early 20s. I was 24. I started preaching. I got married. Looking back, if I was to talk to my 24-year-old self, I would say wait till 34 before you walk down. Because at 34, I became a totally different person. So when I turned 44, me and my wife was separated for a couple of years. But I knew in the dynamic that I knew her since I was 17 years old. If I'm going to dance with the devil, I'd rather to dance with the devil that I already know. I didn't want to build something with someone else differently. When you're as a divorce attorney and you're sitting down with people, is it your responsibility or your fiduciary lending to say, can we work this out? Or are you already at your wit's end? How do you approach even that incoming process?
You know, I think I do try to see if it's salvageable, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I mean, and sometimes giving people the real facts about the law and what they can expect financially makes them decide maybe it's not as bad as I think it is.
you're
You know
right.
what I mean?
You're a little old school guy. You know that song is cheaper to keep it.
Right. No, I mean, there is that, right? I mean, and and also for women, who, are maybe not the primary breadwinners in their home and they want out and, it's not going to be their lifestyle is going to change substantially because there's not enough money to go around. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Now, look,
yeah.
if we hear that if there's domestic violence, if there's verbal abuse, if there's physical abuse, if there's, I mean, I've done torture cases, stalkings, all of that type of stuff. Okay, yes, no. But if you come in and say, well, we just kind of grew apart,
Yeah.
but nobody's being violent or I'm like, okay, well, okay, how, what, I mean, is this possible? Because I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I would say that 30% of the people that meet with us end up doing nothing. They stay in the
Uh-oh.
relationship they're in, or they don't hire an attorney at all. And I mean, I'm just saying that's probably about right. So not everybody decides to move forward. And in a lot of cases, most people don't come to a divorce attorney unless they've been thinking about it for a long
A long
time.
time. Yeah.
I would say on
That's
average,
that's the next
6
step.
to 12 months. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
not working. You know what I'm saying? So, but I would like to see, all marriages succeed, but not all marriages are healthy.
Mm.
And so they're not healthy for anybody involved and they're not healthy for the children. Our focus really is on the children more than it is on the client. Like, what is best for this child? Because somebody's got to speak for the child.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that as part of our role in this more than just our representing our client.
So when did you know for you coming into the law field that you was an entrepreneur? How was that shift for you? What was going on in your mind? Not work. I don't want to work for another law firm. I'm good at what I do, but I'm not only good at what I do, I can be a leader of people. How was that journey for you?
It was an interesting journey because I wanted to be an attorney and I wanted to work for myself starting in the ninth grade.
Oh, okay.
I read, North Carolina requires a civics course, as most states do. And so in that civics course, I read the Federalist Papers and I read and I'm fascinated by these colonists and this government that they wanted to see and the concept of inalienable right and this sort of sense of justice and that they weren't being treated fairly by the king. And I'm a huge fan of Colonial Williamsburg. If your listeners have not been to Williamsburg, Virginia, and gone to
I'm
Colonial
going there
Williamsburg,
tomorrow.
absolutely go. It is, I love that place. I go more than once a year. I give money to their foundation because to talk to the reenactors and how much they know about what was going on and just when they're in character, you learn so much. And people are people, right? Yeah, these are, 2025 Americans, but they are so good, so in character. And then there's so much about the characters they're playing, and they can speak to you as if it was 1771,
What
1772,
what
and
show
what's
is
going
this?
on. It's all the same.
What show is this?
What'd you say?
In Williams, because I'm going to Williamsburg tomorrow. What show is this?
So the Colonial Williamsburg, there's a entire village that is the original colonial town,
Yeah.
which was the capital of Virginia
Oh, okay.
when the Revolutionary War started.
Wow.
There are over 100 buildings there, many of which have been completely rebuilt to look just like they were at the time. You can buy a day pass or a year pass for 70 to 80 bucks, and you can go into the buildings and they have reenactors who are dressed like the people of the time, and they will talk to you just like the people of the time, and they'll tell you what was going on and what their concerns were and what they didn't like about the king. And it is pretty fascinating. And it's worth several hours of your time just to go and talk to them. They also have art museums and they have tons of furniture from the time, and you can watch how furniture developed over time through different cultures. and all of that. It is a really, really neat place. And of course, Williamsburg, Virginia also has Busch Gardens
Yeah.
and the roller coasters. But Yorktown is right there as well, which is, one of the first places that settlers came in America. So it's a really neat area there in the Tidewater area of Virginia. But the reenactors and the people at Colonial Williamsburg, if you want to know about the history of America and just kind of what was going on and how it actually came to be, going and talking to them is worth your time. It is really, really neat.
You knew at 9 that you,
At 15, I was in high school, ninth grade. I took a civics class, and I was so fascinated by the Federalist Papers and the United States Constitution. I thought, you know what? I'm pretty good at English and math. I'm pretty good at English and writing and history. I'm not that great at math. Maybe being an attorney is what I should do. So I joined a high school law explorers program, and we did some little things around the courthouse and started hanging out with one of my neighbors who worked in the public defender's office in Laurinburg, North Carolina. And Scotland County, a small county, small town right on the North Carolina, South Carolina line, not far from south of the border. If you've been down I-95 and got to South Carolina and seen that sort of, it used to be a much bigger thing than it is now with the Mexican themed little park there at south of the border on I-95 and the North Carolina, South Carolina line. But yeah, and my father was a CPA, and
oh,
he
okay.
started his own CPA firm. And so I'd watched him, it grow. It never got to be huge, but it was what he really enjoyed. And he was so happy. And it didn't matter how many hours he worked. That man never complained about going to work because he's working for himself.
Yeah.
And he goes to work even now. He is 78 years old, and he goes to work every day now. And he goes there with a smile on his face because it's his, and he's trying to save money from his clients from the government.
So fast.
And so I had an entrepreneur as a father, and I was like, you know what? And the thing I learned about it was he made it to all of my baseball games.
Yeah.
He made it to all of my little
Yeah.
scout things,
Yeah.
right? My mom was a nurse. She worked in emergency rooms for 30 years. She made it to a few things, but she had to work on the weekends. She had to work night. She had to work Christmas, right? And so I was looking around going, my dad comes to everything. It doesn't matter if it's 10 a.m. in the morning, because he worked for himself. And I was like, well, I kind of want to be able to do that. I'd like to have some control of my schedule that my mom doesn't have. And so that was another reason why I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
But so now let's fast forward to 2020. You have a small firm and everybody walks out without getting, I don't want to get you down because you're up, but if you can recount for our audience, how did you feel when the last person walked out? Because, when one person walked out, you're like, well, at least I got two. Then, but the last person walks out of the door. What happened to you as an entrepreneur? Because entrepreneurial journey, forget the law journey, because you can go work for somebody else. But the entrepreneurial journey is highs and lows. Was that the lowest?
Yeah, probably. I mean, unfortunately, in 2022, I had 4 attorneys and 3 quit at the same time.
Whoa.
So I had 2 separate sort of moments where it was like, okay, which way is this going to go? In 2020, I understood why the 3 people left. We were in COVID. It's a mom with kids. The courts reopened and the schools do not. You have a secretary who's living with a guy, and they decide after they've been cooped up together for 3 months, they're going to break up. She's going to go back to California. You have an attorney that didn't maybe want to work quite as hard as you wanted them to work, and probably need to work part-time, and got an opportunity where she could work part-time. So everybody had their own reasons, but the first thing that happens is all the blood leaves your body. The next thing that happens is you don't sleep well. But then the next thing that happens is I got a wife that stays at home. I got 2 small kids, and we still represent 75 people at the time, all of which still need to be served, that I've been paid to serve, and I had to provide the service I had been paid for. So, you can feel a little sorry for yourself, but the bottom line is, like, I had to figure it out, right? And so the first thing you did was, okay, you start putting up ads. You're interviewing people. We were looking to try to hand a position anyway. So, you immediately, you start interviewing people and you start trying to find people that can help you. I use WiseHire to put up job ads out there, wisehire.com. It is similar to the other job sites that are out there like Indeed and stuff like that, but I've used them for a long time. The other thing that I did was I found a coach, and I'd been looking for a coach coming out of 2019 into 2020 before COVID happened, because I had all these leads and I didn't exactly know what to do with them. I was very fortunate to switch website companies in 2016 and landed with a website company that does legal marketing out of Columbus, Ohio, named Postali, that had built me one of the top 10 or 15 family law websites in North Carolina. And all of a sudden I had all these leads and I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand how to repeat the business from month to month. I knew that I needed to bring in 40 or $50,000 to break even, every month. But I didn't understand. I knew I was doing it every month, but I didn't understand how I was doing it every month. I had no idea of the concept of leads, sent, shows, hires, referrals, paid in full, sort of this perfect client life cycle. I didn't have any of that. I just knew that I was this small business owner, and for 20 years, I had a number I had to make and had to figure out how to make that number every month. Well, that doesn't allow you to grow or expand or scale or anything, because that is, you're living in 30-day intervals.
Yeah.
And living in 30-day intervals is
Scary.
not what you need to be doing, right? The world is much bigger than a 30-day interval. I was, for 20 years, I was living in 30-day intervals. And I would say that probably 75% of the entrepreneurs listening to this podcast are also living in 30-day intervals, because the bills are due every 30 days. And you got to get past that. You can't do stupid stuff and have too much overhead and all this stuff where you're losing money and you're using short-term revolving credit to prop yourself up. But you do have to have a bigger vision for what you're doing and figure out, all right, if I get this many leads, I can get this many sets. And if I have this many people set, I'll get this many people to show up. And if this many people show up, this percentage of people are going to hire me. And my average case value is this. And you can start to project out 6 and 12 months what you can do for income and profit and maybe staffing and all of that type of stuff. But until you really start to understand that, you're going to be on this hamster wheel every 30 days.
It's funny that you say that, because you can be a great attorney, but not understand business. And some people misdiagnose the two. You're talking about a different skill set now. So you moved from
Correct.
a great attorney to an entrepreneur. How was that journey for you? And what was the different mindsets that you had to shift within yourself, whether it's limiting beliefs or projections or feeling, affirmations? Like what were some of the things that you had to do to shift from being a guy, you have 75 cases, you can't be in 75 courtrooms, but you can rally the troops. Yeah.
Right. No, some of the things that needed to change was you had to be willing to let go of control. There's a great book by Dan Kennedy called Who Not, not Who Not How. Who's going to do this for you? Not how are you going to do it? It's a great book. It's out there. It doesn't take long to read. Dan Kennedy's written 20 books probably, but Who Not How is one of the books he wrote with another writer. And, it talks about every time you come up with a new idea, think who can do it, not how are you going to get it done. Hire people that have an expertise to do it instead of you trying to become the expert. But one of the things, the number one thing I had to do is I had to be able to release control. I had to be able to understand that other people could do work under my name. This is the Breeden Law Office. We now have all these employees. We have 250 some odd cases, depending on what day of the week it is. I never go to court now. I don't do the consults, but yet I got all these people acting under my name, and that still matters a lot to me that it's done right. But you have to be able to begin to release control and understand that while they may not do it the exact way you would do it, and maybe they're not as good as you, if they're doing it competently and providing a good service, you're still doing something for society you're doing something for them, and you're doing something for your business.
How was that shift for you? Not moving from the courtroom into the manager and executive position. Yeah, it's your name and stuff like that. But sometimes, like you say, when you're good at something, you could probably do this with your eyes closed, right? Like, but now you have an attorney who comes in and they us young attorneys, right? We know it all.
Yeah.
How did you learn the patience to allow a person to make their mistakes and then come back to you? Like, what was that process for you like?
I mean, it it happens slowly. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I had to, well, the first thing was I had somebody tell me this,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
Okay.
there's a very successful dentist in North Carolina named Michael Riccobini. He owns a series. I think there's maybe 20 of these dentistries between Raleigh and Wilmington. And I think he may even be out of the Outer Banks now. They're called Riccobini Family Dentistry. And he started right here at my intersection in Gardner, North Carolina, at the same time I did. And now he's probably has 20 dental offices.
Oh, wow.
And him and I were at a political fundraiser for a congressional candidate in 2018 or 2019. And I'm getting this idea that maybe I want to scale this. I begin to understand and I have all these leads, I have all these website visits, like, but I had this problem of releasing it. So I asked him, I was like, you did this. How did you do it? And he said, what I just said to you and your audience a minute ago. You have to train and you have to be okay with what they do and the decisions they make, even if it is not the decision you would make, as long as it is still providing for the client and
Mhm.
providing good work. And so that stuck in my mind. He tells me this, you know, like in a 15-minute conversation 7 years ago. But I have told myself that every day since then, as I began to scale, particularly when they make mistakes and stuff like that. Like, you have to be able to accept that or you can't grow. And you
Yeah.
can be small and keep it all. But if you really want to scale and you want to raise your impact, because I believe we do a better job than any other family law firm in North Carolina. And we're serving these people better, I believe, than anybody else. So if you believe your product is that good, then you have a duty to try to get it to as many people as possible to make the world better.
So you got a plaque with Stanford behind you.
Oh, and NC State,
That's NC State. You went to North Carolina State.
NC State,
All
NC
right.
State, the Wolfpack.
The Wolfpack. So in your heart, you still a Wolfpack?
Oh yeah, I love the Wolfpack. Got season tickets. Went to the Final Four with DJ Birds and DJ
Yeah.
Moore in Phoenix this year. It was great.
Right.
It was great. Yeah, so it was awesome. That was a great run. And look, the motto of that team, it was in 10th place and was going nowhere, and they had hit a
Nowhere.
three-pointer with no time on the clock to beat Virginia to even go on that run in the ACC tournament. Was why not us?
Yeah.
Your listeners should be asking themselves that same
Why not
question.
us?
Why not me? Why can I not be Jonathan Breeden? Why can I be any of these other people that are out? Because you can. There's so much information out there. There's so much education, YouTube, podcast, everything. There is no reason for anybody not to be what they want to be in 2025.
You're podcasting now. You have a successful business. You're going around and you're sharing your story. You can keep the story to yourself. Why do you feel like it's important for you to share your journey, to get vulnerable with people about your losses, about your highs, about your expansion, and about your mental coaching and all of those things? Why is that important to you?
Because I want everybody to have the success that I've had. I
Mm.
want to put it into the universe that people can be successful. There is nothing special about me. I am not the best family law attorney in the world, right? I don't read tons of case law. I don't write the best briefs and all of that stuff. I was nowhere near the top of the class. Okay. I was the get out of the class, right? Like, you know what I mean?
You
But,
made it.
but, but but I have learned so much from listening to podcasts and listening to your podcast and all the like it has been so educational for me, and a lot of it has been transformative for me by listening to this, that I want to go out there and share this story that you can be successful, but you gotta make decisions, and you can't get this paralysis by analysis, right? You can't let this anxiety break you down. 98% of the things you're afraid of are not going to happen. They're just not, because before they actually happen, you would make a different decision. And I had a lot of anxiety, and I still do. Like, look, we didn't have the best 30 days in November. You got an election. You got a week where Thanksgiving, we didn't do so hot. I mean, I start questioning everything. Like, I'm not sitting there saying that my anxiety doesn't get to me even now today, but you know what? You can work through it. And there's a lot of great podcasts out there like yours, like the Mindset Mentor with Ron Dow Jr. There's another great podcast that's out there on mindset that I like to listen to. The Successful Mind podcast. I mean, there are a lot of great ones out there. I'm going to be on another one in a few weeks. The Audacious Living podcast.
Yep.
Like these are really good podcasts. I mean, you may have heard that one. Yours is great as well. I started my own little podcast here in my little community called Best of Johnston County, where I interview local business owners and local elected officials and interesting people about why they love living here in the suburbs of Raleigh and our little county to create a sense of community. It's been great. I'm not trying to monetize it. I'm having a blast. I've met so many nice people, and I've made the county look better, right? I'm putting out
Yeah.
positive stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative in the world. But I tell you what, one of the things that changed my mindset when I got the coach, I hired a coach named Richard James, and Your Practice Mastered is his program. He teaches lawyers from all over the country. He currently lives in Charlotte. When I met him, he lived in Phoenix. But, the first thing he said was, read the book Think and Grow Rich,
Mm.
and by Napoleon Hill. And I'd heard of it, but I'd never read it. And I started to read it, and I didn't finish it. And about 6 or 8 months later, he asked me, "Have you finished reading that book?" I said, "No." And I'd not had the success that I've had now in that first year in his program. We had COVID, everything was going on. We had some turnover and all that. And then he's like, "You need to read it." And so then I read it. And then I read it again. And and I've read it partly of a third time. Like, that
Yeah.
book really is about the power of the mind. And anything that you can imagine, you can bring into the world. And it talks about the power of a mastermind, where you get a group of people together and their collective brain power and experiences creates a better outcome and better ideas for you. And so, if anybody listening to this, it started with me by getting a coach, number one, getting another counselor. I had a counselor, and she ended up not being a counselor anymore. And I went a couple years without one. That was a mistake. I read the book Think and Grow Rich, which was huge. And that book was written in the 1920s
Yeah.
by Napoleon Hill. And he was asked by, I think, one of the Rockefellers to interview all the great leaders of the time. And this would have been the 10s and the 20s. So it's J.P. Morgan, it's Henry Ford, it's one of Einstein's assistants, it's Rockefeller himself, along with some other people that may not be as known today as they were then, just about their mindsets and what they were thinking. Henry Ford, I think, had an 8th grade education and was kind of illiterate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he was.
But yet he had this idea that a cylinder engine could work. He was
Yes.
not an engineer, and his
No.
company failed a million times,
Yes.
but he felt like it could work,
It
but
could
he
work.
didn't know.
No.
And they used to make fun of Henry Ford, is my understanding from reading the book and stuff, that about how he wasn't smart, and they would mock him. And I think one time he even got put on trial for being a fraud, for not being smart. I'm not sure the whole
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
I'm not a historian, but basically he said, and this is in the book, why do I need to know these facts when I can hit a button and get somebody to come give me the answer in 5 minutes? And that's the go right back to what we talked about a minute ago. Who, not how. Henry Ford did not know a whole lot about cars, but he knew about people, and he had a vision. And he found people and engineers to build his vision to become one of the greatest car companies of all time. You're the same way. We're all the same way. It starts with a vision and an idea, and then you start making individual small decisions, and it's not going to be overnight. Like it's going to be time after time. But once you get that ball rolling, it kind of becomes like a flywheel. It just keeps going. You know, to grow this business to $1 million took 21 years.
Oh,
To grow it to 2 million took one, right?
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's just,
Right. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
that's a jewel. That's a jewel. Listen, everybody. Jonathan's information is in our description. If you're listening to this podcast and you came this far, all of his information. I usually ask our what books have influenced them, but he's giving you 3 books. You know what I like about you? And as we go to our close, you know what I like about you? In every turn of your life, you name the reference that helped you. You give them their flowers. You shout out their website. Why is that important to you? That you name the people that was a part of your journey, but also give them, like, if somebody else is on this journey that's listening, hey, this is their website. This is where they are. Why is that important? Because it comes off so natural.
because I didn't get here on my own, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm a young man. I mean, I'm not young anymore, but you know, I'm just a regular person who grew up in a town of 20,000 people, the son of a small town CPA and an emergency room nurse, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've probably got some intelligence, I guess, but like anybody can do it. And I had so much. Now I had to make decisions to go find these people, right? They didn't come find me.
Yeah.
I had to go find them. And my wife helped me find some of these people to help me and all of that stuff. And that's been important too. But like these people help me. These podcasts, these books can help you too. And I want everybody to have the success that I have had because freedom of time, which I have a lot of now, is the one of the greatest things you can get for yourself. I go on all kinds of vacations now. I can take my kids. We homeschool our kids. I
Well,
can
you
take my
homeschool.
kids all over this world, and I have, and I'm going to continue to because I'm now not wedded to this office and this seat and a court schedule, a trial schedule, and all of that because I have built a business that can run without me largely, not completely. I'm not completely exited and become the sort of investor level. I'm still in I'm still managing some of the day to day, but not all of the day to day. And, you can do this in any business that you want to start. And I don't care what it is. And HVAC, it doesn't matter. Professional services, some service you want to provide, you can do this. Detailing cars, it doesn't matter. But you have to have a vision, a goal, a plan, the ability to take steps and move forward to not quit because you only lose if you quit
Wait, yeah, yeah.
and be better tomorrow than you are today.
There you have it,
Everybody
everybody.
finds that.
There you have it, everybody. This is why we have conversations that help you evolve. Our conversations, we don't ask you for cash apps or Venmos or send us this or send us that. We want to leave with value. We lead with value. We lead with valuable persons that has been tested and tried. But not only that, we do need from you subscriptions. So subscribe right now. Likes. Your likes are invaluable because it helps these conversations get to the ears of the masses. Uh, and not only do we need your subscriptions and your likes, if you're listening on a platform where you can leave a review, Spotify, Apple, or you can go to our website, walkinvictory.me, leave that review. It really goes a long, 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 long way. But we don't want to walk with our head down. We don't want to walk with our limiting beliefs leading us. We don't want to walk feeling as if we can't do it. You heard the man. Whether you're an HVAC, car wash, you can lead this life. You've seen it, heard the conversation. Now just get up and get it. But most of all, Jonathan is now a part of the Walk in Victory family, and you are too. Peace.